So remember that we have three different forms. We have standard form, vertex form, and factored form. So when we have something in standard form, what are we able to identify from standard form? Olivia? The y-intercept, and what else? Yeah, the a, and what does the a tell us? If the graph does what? Yep. Yep. So if you have a max or min. Perfect. So the second one's like the easiest one. So what does vertex form give us? Obviously, it's in the name. It gives us the vertex and the axis of symmetry. And then last but not least, I heard someone say it already. What does factored form give us? X-intercepts. And we can use the x-intercepts to help us find our vertex as well. So that is what each of them does. It's called 4.5. It's called, just put word problems. That's it. That's all I would title it.
Wait, do we not have this paper?
You do.
I do?
Yep.
Okay.
So the first one is so the graph on the right shows the height of a rock launched from a slingshot, where time t is in seconds and the height h of t is in meters. So we basically want to figure out an equation for our parabola. So what is the easiest thing we can identify in this parabola model over here? Vertex. What would my vertex be? Yep, and the axis of symmetry. What would my vertex be? 2 and 23. We'll say 2 and 23. So we'll say it's 2 and 23. So what form are we going to write it in? Vertex form, standard form, factored form. Which one would be the easiest one? Vertex. So remember for vertex form, so we found out our vertex is 2 and 23. So our vertex form is written as, in this case, h of t is equal to a times t minus h squared plus k. So our vertex is 2 and 23. Which one would be h and which one is k? Olivia? Yep. 23 is k. So if I were to put the 2 back in a bracket, would it be x plus 2 or x minus 2? Minus 2, because it's opposite of what it seems. So I'm going to get h of t is equal to a times t minus 2 squared plus 23. So now I need to figure out how in the world I'm going to figure out my a value. So let's go back to the graph. If you guys look at your graph, is there another point that I can use to help me figure out my a? Where's the graph? It's on your paper. Oh, that's unfortunate. So I'll go back to this. So what other points on the graph can we use to figure out our a? Well, we kind of don't have them because our graph doesn't pass through them. We just have part of the graph. The one on the y? Sure. Yep, that's 1.5. We got 1 and 17. So we can use 1 and 17, or as Emma pointed out, the y-intercept, which is approximately what? Like 2? 0 and 2?
Yeah.
So we can use either or. It doesn't really matter to me. So we'll use 1 and 17. So we're going to use the point 1 and 17.
So how do we know that what a is?
So we have to plug in the coordinate. So 1 and 17, which one is my t and which one is my h? So which one represents time, 1 or 17? Rita? No, which one represents time? The 1.
1.
And t represents my height. And 17 represents my height, sorry.
So how do we know? Oh, because of the graph.
Yeah. So wherever I see t, I'm going to plug in 1. And wherever I see h of t, I'm going to plug in 17. So 17 is equal to a times 1 minus 2 squared plus 23. So who can tell me what 1 minus 2 is in that bracket? I'm going to get negative 1 squared plus 23. So what's negative 1 to the power of 2? 1. I'm going to get 17 is equal to 1a, which is just a, plus 23. So what's left for me to do to isolate for a? What do I have to do? We're going to move the 23 over to the left side. So it becomes 17 minus 23 is equal to a. And what's 17 minus 23? Negative 6 is equal to a. So therefore, my entire equation is going to be h of t is equal to negative 6 times t minus 2 squared plus 23.
So is it possible to get a different number for A?
What do you mean?
Say if we chose like a different point.
Well, obviously, we might like the a value is going to vary because they didn't give us exact points on the graphs. So if you plug in 0 and 2, it might give you a different what's it called? A different a value. So B is we're going to use our model or our equation to determine when the rock is going to hit the ground. So we have my vertex form, which is h of t is equal to 6 times t minus 2, or negative 6 times t minus 2 squared plus 23. How am I going to change this into standard form? What do I have to do? Ashton? Nope. What are we going to do to change that into standard form? Cynthia? Not yet. You don't foil yet. Jade? Nope. So how many of these brackets do I have? T minus 2 squared. How many of those brackets do I have? 2. So I'm going to do negative 6 times t minus 2 times t minus 2 plus 23. Now, some of you have said this already. What are we going to do now? We're going to foil. So we're going to foil our brackets together. So t times t. So when I foil, what am I going to get? T squared. Continue. Yeah, so that's correct. Plus 4. Okay. Cynthia, what do we do after? What do we do with that negative 6? Yeah, we're going to distribute the negative 6 into my bracket. So what's negative 6 times t squared? Okay. What's negative 6 times negative 4t? Positive what? Yep. Plus 24t. Negative 6 times positive 4 is negative 24 plus 23. So our like terms are at the end. So can someone tell me what negative 24 plus 23 gives me? Thank you. So this is our standard form. So now we have to use this to find our x-intercepts. Am I able to do sum and product, or is it impossible? Our product's going to be positive 6 and our sum is 24. Would that ever work?
I don't think so. I mean, you're asking the question.
Nope, because 2 times 3 is 6, but 3 plus 2 is 5, so it's never going to work.
So use that formula.
Yep, so we're going to use the annoying formula from yesterday.
No!
The quad formula. Yeah, and if you can't do it, then you have to do quadratic formula. So like here, our product is 6 and our sum is 24. That's never going to happen. Right?
Yeah!
It's never gonna happen. What was the question?
Nothing.
Can we go back to where?
And like, can we go back to when we just had to say it was not possible?
Oh, no. Too bad.
No answer.
So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2 times a. So we're going to have a, b, and c. So what's my a? Negative 6. What's b? And what's c? Perfect. So this is going to equal negative 24 plus or minus the square root of 24 squared minus 4 times negative 6 times negative 1 divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times negative 6. And this takes too long. Like, it's not even hard, it's just so much writing.
Exactly. More writing than I
So can someone tell me what 24 to the power of 2 is? 176? Oh, 576. And what's negative 4 times negative 6 times negative 1? Thank you. And 2 times negative 6 is just negative 12. So this is going to be negative 24 plus or minus the square roots. So 576 minus 24 gives me, is it 552?
552.
Okay. Divided by negative 12. So again, we're going to have two answers. What's my first x-intercept going to be? Jade? Remember, we have that plus and minus thing, so we kind of have to separate them. Yep. 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 Perfect. See, you guys don't have the advantage of zooming in like I do. So I can write. All right. So can someone do the first answer for me? Negative 24 plus the square root of 552, all divided by negative 12. Zero 0.04. And who can tell me what the other one is going to be? Yeah, negative 0.04. Everyone else got 3.9? So out of these two times, which one makes the most sense? That's the one the ball hit the ground. Would it be 0.04 seconds or 3.9 seconds? 3.9. Remember, 0.04 is going to be the start. When it hits the ground, it happens at 3.9. Therefore, that's a lot of writing. Holy.
It is.
Yes, Rita?
How come it didn't
So this is what I said. This is the bad thing about these points, because they're not exactly like, we're just estimating, which is why we're off by a bit, but that's fine. Hold on.
If you know how we like use that one step where it's like a plus or minus,
Mhm.
and then it's like a plus and then minus. If we like skip the step and we just went plus and then minus, we take mark. I did that.
No.
I always do that. It's way
Like, it's
easier.
already obvious like on the next one, so I just.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so take a couple moments to copy this down. So for example 3, the quadratic function p of x equal to negative 30x squared plus 360x plus 785 models a profit earned by a theater, where p is the profit in dollars and x is the ticket price in dollars. What is the max profit?
Okay, so we have to find the math.
Okay, so yeah, you find the vertex. So whenever it's asking us to find the maximum profit or like the minimum profit, we're gonna find the vertex. So there are two ways that we can do this. We can either use the completing the square, which is pretty easy because most of you pretty much got it, or you can find the 2x intercepts, add them together, and then find your vertex. So what do you guys want to do?
Let's do the first one.
Complete the square? Okay. We're going to complete the square. Let's see how much you remember from that lesson. So when we complete the square, what are we focusing on first? The first two.
I remember you bracket the first two and then you bring them in.
So remember, x squared has to be by itself. So if x squared isn't by itself, I need to find a common number that can be divided by both of them. Olivia, what's that number?
Wait, is it negative 30?
Yeah, negative 30. So negative 30. So we're left with x squared minus 12x plus 785. So what's the next thing that we need to do? Rita?
So we need to add in the k now.
Yeah, we have to add in the k after.
So we're dividing by negative 30?
Or, yeah, we divided by negative 30. Because we always want x squared to be positive. So to find our k, remember, because it's a perfect square, we need to find two of the same numbers that add up to negative 12. So what are two numbers that are the same that add up to negative 12? Olivia. negative 6. So we have negative 6 plus negative 6 is equal to negative 12, which means my k has to be what? Yep, because it's negative 6 times negative 6 is equal to positive 36. So I'm going to have negative 30 times x squared minus 12x plus 36. And what goes on the outside of the bracket, Ashton? Minus 36 plus 785. So what's going to be my perfect square here? What would it be? So what two numbers did we use to get to negative 12? Sarah? Yep. So it's going to be negative 30 times x minus 6 squared minus 36 plus 785. So I don't know if you remember, but when we have a number outside of the bracket, what do we have to do with this negative 36? Multiply it. Brooklyn, you had a question?
Yeah, how come it says negative 30 in the bracket x squared take away 12x plus 36 take away 36? Why are you taking like
Because when I want to go back to the original, what's 36 minus 36? 0. So you're just going to be left with x squared minus 12x again. So that's why you have to add that negative at the end.
So you always add that negative
Yep.
of the number that's
On the outside of the bracket. So Ashton, you said we multiply, right? 1,000 what? So whenever you factored a number, you have to multiply it by that first number on the bracket on the outside. So you said 1,080? Good. So can someone tell me what 1,080 plus 785 is? 65? Okay. So this is my function in vertex form. So what is the maximum amount that they make in profit? What would it be? Olivia? Yep. Therefore, the max profit is $1,865. And they need to sell. How many tickets do they need to sell? Yep. I mean, what ticket price do they need to sell it at? $6. So in this case, yeah, I confused. So in this case, the X part of the vertex represents how much money you need to sell each ticket for. And the K value is the amount of profit you make. Yes.
So the K value is going to be always maximum?
Yeah, the K value is always like the amount of money that you're going to make.
Okay, because the vertex is technically 6.
Yep. So in this case, the vertex is 6 and 1,865. So the Y part of the vertex or the K part represents the profit, and the H part or the X part of the vertex in this case represents the amount you have to sell each ticket for, so the ticket price.
Sorry, what's it called, like the thing that we just did?
Completing the square. So I'll write it over here. Complete the square.
Like video.
This will take a couple moments to copy that down. Okay, so for example 6, it's more of it's a lengthier question. So for any of you who've taken business, how do you guys normally calculate profit in terms of revenue and cost?
You guys all do business?
So revenue, so listen up. So revenue is the amount of money that the company takes in, okay? The cost is how much the company has to spend to make the revenue. So what would the profit be? So let me give you an example.
Wait,
Say I spend, so my revenue for my company is, let's say, $600. My cost in materials is, let's say, $400. How am I able to find my profit? How much I actually made? Abby?
minus them, you subtract our
Yep.
cost.
Other way around. Revenue minus the cost. So yeah. So I'm gonna take my revenue and I'm gonna subtract it by the cost, and that's gonna give me the actual money I made.
No way.
So my profit is equal to revenue, subtract my cost. Look, a little business lesson. Yeah, where I forgot to include it. So in this case, it's going to be 600 minus 400, which gives me a profit of $200. So although my company made $600, it cost the company $400 to make that 600. So in reality, I only made $200.
Sorry, is this a part of that question?
Yeah.
Or is this just a separate one?
It's part of the question.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make you realize how you calculate profits when you have revenue and cost. So that's why, so when you go to restaurants or like anyone who has a small business, they try to minimize their costs and maximize their revenue so that they make more money.
Okay, wait, so what's the difference between revenue and cost? Oh, like the cost that it is.
The cost that it is to run. So when you have a business, you don't just magically just make money all the time. You have to pay to make your product. You have to put money into it. Okay, so let's move on to this question now. So this guy has a orchard with 90 apple trees. So he earns an annual revenue of $120 per tree. If he plants more trees, he has less room to grow, resulting in fewer apples per tree. So their revenue is modeled by 90 plus x times 120 minus x. And their cost, so to run everything, costs them in the function 8 times 90 plus x. So I need to figure out what their profit is and what the maximum profit is going to be. So again, my profit is going to be my revenue, so R of x, subtracted by my cost, C of x. So down here, I'm going to write my revenue. So it's 90 plus x times 120 minus x. So what do you think I have to do with those two brackets first?
Put stuff in them?
No, put-
Sorry, is it there?
We're going to expand.
Okay. How do we get that?
It's given to us in the question.
Oh, okay, I see that. Oh, that's for the R of X.
Yeah. So what's 90 times 120? Use your calculator. 10,800. What's 90 times negative x? Okay. And we have plus 120x minus x squared.
Bracket. A really big number.
So can someone tell me what negative 90x plus 120x gives me? What's negative 90 plus 120? Nope. Positive third. Yeah. So this is our R of x. Now my profit, or my cost, so how much it takes to run that company, is given by the expression 8 times 90 plus x. So what are we gonna do with the 8 times 90 plus x? What do we need to do? Olivia?
Okay.
We're gonna distribute. So what's 8 times 90? 720 plus 8x. So we have our revenue simplified already, and then we have our cost simplified already. So take a couple moments to finish copying that down. So my revenue simplified, so my profit is equal to my revenue subtract the cost. So my revenue simplified is 10,800 plus 30x minus x squared, and then I have to subtract the cost, minus 720 plus, what was it, 8x. So when I have a negative outside of the bracket and I want to remove the bracket, what happens to all of the signs? They change. So when I have a negative outside the bracket and I want to remove the bracket, all my signs change. So 10,800 plus 30x minus x squared minus 720 minus 8x.
Wait, why is the 720 in the bracket?
Because I'm subtracting. Because when I simplified, I got positive 720. So now we have to collect my like terms. So what are my like terms here? Olivia?
Would you write that next word first?
Yep. So what are my like terms? Ashton, what's one of them?
So one would be 22.
So 30x and negative 8x.
Okay, so just the negative difference.
And then I have 10,800 minus 720. So negative x squared stays by itself. As Ashton said, 30x minus 8x is 22. So 22x. And what's 10,800 minus 720? What does that give us?
A big number.
10,080. Okay, so this is in standard form. To find the maximum profit, what do we need to do? Olivia? We're going to have to vertex form, which means complete the square. So I'm going to focus on these two brackets first.
Okay,
Is my x squared positive?
no,
So what do I have to factor out?
a negative.
Yep. So I'm dividing everything by negative 1. So I'm going to be left with x squared minus 22x, and then I can have the plus k plus 10,080. So what do we have to do next? So what are two numbers that are the same that give me negative 22? Olivia? So negative 11 plus negative 11 gives me negative 22, which means my k is going to be what? So I have to do negative 11 times negative 11, which gives me 121. So I'm going to be left with negative x squared minus 22x plus 121. And on the outside, I have to write minus 121 plus 10,080.
Sorry, how did we get the 22 more 21?
Because negative 11 plus negative 11 gives us negative 22.
So we have to do something that adds up to 22?
And then our product is those two numbers multiplied together.
Oh.
So that's how we get our
So
k.
we just do numbers that add up to the same number that adds up to the.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So what's my perfect square? Olivia? Yep. And because I have a negative on the outside, and this is negative 121, what do I have to do with those two numbers? So what's negative 1 times negative 121? So my final answer is going to be negative x, negative times x minus 11 squared. And what's 121 plus 10,080? One 10,201. Perfect. So, what is my maximum profit? Olivia? Yep. So max profit is $10,201. And how many trees does he need to plant? 11.
How did you get x minus 11 squared?
Because what are the two numbers I used to get negative 22?
Oh, 11?
Yeah, negative 11.
Okay. Oh, that's, wait, how did you change, like the other, like before this step, what did you do to get the standard form?
Oh, I just FOILed. So I did 90 plus x times 120 minus x.
And they gave you the factor formula?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I said, 4 and 5 you're going to do on your own. And if you want to write your answer on the whiteboard, I'm not opposed to that at all, as long as it's math. So give 4 and 5 a try.